Hello everyone, and welcome to a no fluff design tutorial. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make an iPhone 10 mockup using Figma. Now, if you're not familiar with Figma, it is a 100% free design program that exists on the web. I love it because it doesn't require any storage space on your computer because, of course, it exists on the web. And if any of you are wondering, besides my use of their program, I am in no way affiliated with Figma, so they have not sponsored this video in any way. I'll be the very first to admit that Figma is a cool program, but it does have its drawbacks, and some of those drawbacks you are going to see in this video today. But for those of you who aren't really ready to make the investment in like the Adobe Suite programs such as Photoshop or Illustrator, or you just don't use those tools frequently enough to justify the expense, Figma is going to be a great option. Now, while Figma is a great program, there are a few features that it does not have, and one of those is the ability to skew a bitmap image. So if you look over here, this is what I mean. This iPhone here is, it is a mock-up, and it has a screen that probably wasn't originally there. However, it's at an angle, and that's just something we're not going to be able to achieve inside of Figma. We're only going to be able to do kind of a dead-on iPhone screen like this. So this is what we're going to be focusing on in this tutorial. And later on in this video, I will show you how to do this inside of Sketch. But again, we're not going to be able to do it inside of Figma, so you can go ahead and bury those hopes. Now, just a couple more things before we get started. First of all, this entire file is available in the link in the description. Also, if you'd like to just look at these instructions rather than watching this video, you can do so with that same link. We've got a text write-up of everything that you see here. And also, this tutorial is geared toward people who would like to specifically put a mock-up inside a phone that is like in the hand of someone. Because if you didn't know already, without even doing any of these steps, you can have a regular mock-up that just exists inside of a phone in Figma. So for example, if this is our screen, which it's just a wallpaper that I downloaded from Google Images, if we just select that screen and then we come up here to the right hand corner and we click on the present button, we'll be redirected to a new tab, and there will be our screen inside of an iPhone 10 device. So if you really wanted just this, you can go ahead and take a screenshot and you'll have exactly what you're looking for, a simple phone on a black background. Okay, but for those of you who would like to put this phone inside of a more realistic scene, just continue to follow along here. Now, the first thing that we're going to need is a screen, and I can only assume that you have a screen, otherwise what would you be putting inside of this mockup? So in this case, I've just taken this iPhone 10 wallpaper or iOS 12 wallpaper I just downloaded from Google Images, and that's there. This next artboard or frame, as they call it in Figma, is going to be the mask, and I've made it very simple. All you're going to need to do is just go ahead and duplicate this. Well, you don't have to duplicate it, but I'm duplicating it to preserve the original. Just go ahead and take your actual screen, copy, and come over to the frame and then paste, and you can see that it's automatically been masked in the iPhone 10 shape. Now, the reason I'm doing iPhone 10 and not just an iPhone 8 is because you wouldn't need to really do this masking step for an iPhone 8 because it would just be a plain rectangle. So you can just go ahead and ignore this part and just move all the way through to when I start putting it on the screen like I have here. Another thing that you may have noticed I included in the file are these home swipe bars and status bars. You can go ahead and add those into your screen in order to make it a little bit more realistic. You may already have them in there, but if you don't, I've included them in the document for you to use. In this case, we're dealing with a darker color background, so I figured it looks a lot better if I use white. So let's just go ahead and take that one piece. Just gonna move it back into place, Command Z, copy, come over to my mask, Command V. As you can see, it's already inside of a rectangle. So this is, you don't have to worry about spacing. Just go ahead and move that directly to the bottom and it'll be in the correct space. Same thing for up here, except you're gonna be moving it to the top. So let's just Command C, come over to the mask, Command V, and actually we don't have to move it to the top because it will be automatically at the top And so there we have it. One other thing that you'll notice I've included in the document is this kind of fake glass. It's a very subtle effect, but what it is essentially going to do is create a bit of a glare to just to create the effect of glass. You know, this one here, you can see that they don't have any sort of glare, and all you know, it just generally looks a bit flat. And I wanted to give you all the option of having a little bit more of a realistic feel. So if you'd like to, you can use this glass that I've created. All you have to do is just Command C, come over to this frame, and then Command V, and you can see on top where that glare has been added. So just without the glare, and with the glare, without the glare, with the glare. Yeah, so it just creates a little bit more of a realistic effect. Now what I'm going to do is just take all of those pieces together, and I'm going to Command G, group them so that I have one easy to manipulate layer. I'll just delete this one for now because, you know, we're about to replace it. And all we're going to do is either you drag it over or you copy it over, or however you want to do it. I'm just going to drag it over. Sorry, just my layer inside. I'm actually going to copy it, come over here, paste. Oh. All right. Copy and paste, and then all we're gonna do is resize, holding Shift to keep those proportions, and you can see that there we have it. Just adjust a little bit if you need to. Maybe make it a little bit larger. Okay, so there you have it. You've got an iPhone 10 mock-up of whatever screen you'd like inside of a hand. Now, in order to find this image, I just Googled iPhone 10 mockup hand, and that's where I found all of these images. One thing you're going to notice when you're going through is that most of these things are for either Photoshop or Sketch. And as I mentioned earlier in this video, those are paid programs. But what you can do is kind of hack together your own version of this by using Figma and an appropriate image. And an appropriate image, as I mentioned before, is not going to be skewed or at an angle. As you can see, this one's at an angle, it's a bit skewed. That's not going to work out. This one here would work out beautifully. It would be just fine because it's straight on, and there's no obstruction to the screen itself. So you can see that the fingers are all on the outside of that bezel. Whereas this one here, the screen is being covered a little bit by these fingers, and that's just not something that we can easily do inside of Figma. So we're just going to want to steer clear of anything like that. Again, this one works nicely, straight on, and there's no obstruction to the screen. Cool, so now let's imagine a situation where we want to put this onto a cell phone that is angled. Okay, the first thing you're going to need to do is actually grab this screen, which you can see is all in one nice group. And I'm just going to export that here. Here it's going to export automatically as PNG, but I can also add in an SVG. I like to add an SVG so that I could also edit when I get over to Sketch. So if you're doing this in Sketch, it probably means that you started in Sketch, so this is a pretty unnecessary step. But I'm just going to go ahead and export that group, and here it is. All right, and I'm just going to right click and I'm going to open with Sketch. All right, that didn't work exactly how I thought. Let's see if we change that fill, whoops, to fit. No, stretch. Yeah, this is all kind of weird. All right, that didn't work out like I thought it was. So that's why I exported the PNG. Let's do the same thing with the PNG. Let's open with Sketch. All right, cool. And then we're gonna need this image here, which again, I just found via Google image search. And so I'm just gonna get that inside of my document and bring that into that same Sketch file. Excellent. All right, here we are. Command X, Command V to get that on top. And there's a handy feature that Sketch has that I wish that Figma had, but Figma unfortunately does not have, and that is the ability to skew a bitmap image. Now, this is a bitmap image because it is a PNG that works perfectly for what we want. and they have this tool called Transform. So if we click on Transform, all we need to do is kind of holding Command, we can just drag in those points where we want them to be. All right, so there you go. So holding Control, you can manipulate each of those corners in the Transform object setting of Sketch, and that's how you can get it to kind of warp itself. And if you couldn't see that this phone was warped before, I'm sure you saw it now. It is a little bit at an angle. And also this angle gives us the opportunity to see how nice that reflection acts on the screen. So like I said, I'm gonna link to these files in the description, both the Figma and the Sketch file. In the Sketch file, I know you don't see it now, but by the time it gets to you, I will have added an iPhone 10 mask, as well as these little status bar and home swipe assets for you to add to your screens if you don't have them already. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. It would really help us out, and we'll see you next time.